Hello everyone. In this video, let us understand what is Azure Virtual Private Networks. This is with continuation of the Azure Virtual Network, what we have discussed in the earlier videos. Let us understand what is VPN all about. Before going to virtual private networks, let us see what is VPN. If I am an individual user, let us say this is me. I am an individual user and I wanted to connect to my office network. So what are the possibilities to connect to your office network? Either you can connect using a cable, you can directly connect from your laptop to your office network. Is this possible? This is not possible because there are multiple users. There are thousands of users who will be accessing your office network because they are working from remote location or they are working from work from home. In this particular case, we have to use internet as the medium. So internet is an existing connection. You have different provider who provide the internet connection. You use the internet to access your office network. So basically what you do is you create a tunnel. You have the internet connection, you create a tunnel, and this particular tunnel is the secure tunnel. Secured in the sense because internet is a public network and nobody should access your corporate data. So that is the reason you create a tunnel to access your office network. So when you are using your internet to access your office network, you need to authenticate to your office network. It can be via VPN client installed on your laptop or the desktop. So you authenticate via VPN client and connect to your office network. You access all the resources. It can be mail services, it can be SharePoint, it can be web services. So all the services you are able to access via the internet using the VPN tunnel. If an individual user is accessing the corporate network or the remote office, then this is called as point to site because a single user is connecting to the office network, which is point, and this is your site. This is the remote office or your corporate office. So this is okay. But what if I have two head office? One is head office, the other one is branch office. I wanted to connect these two networks. You can connect these two networks using the router, and this is also via the internet, or it can be leased line. So you can have the connection from one office to another office using the leased line or the internet. So if you are using the internet, then you are creating a tunnel, end-to-end tunnel within the internet, and this particular tunnel is a secure tunnel. As I said, the data what you are accessing from one office to another office, this has to be in a secured manner. So that is the reason we use VPN tunneling. At each office location, you have the router configured, and this particular router will have connection via the internet, and this connection is nothing but your tunneled network. This is for the security purpose. You are tunneling your data from one location to another location via the internet, via the public network in a secured way. This is because the data whatever you are sending from head office to the branch office or from the branch office to the head office cannot be sniffed or it cannot be hacked. So it will be in a secured way. If I apply the same concept on Azure, so again, this is me and this is the Azure network. So this is the Azure cloud. If I wanted to connect to the Azure network using the point-to-point connection, again, I need to have internet. I'll connect via the internet and connect to the Azure network. So this is the laptop and I'll be able to connect via the internet to the Azure network. For you to connect to the Azure network, you need to create something called as VPN gateway. Before that, you need to have virtual network created. And to create a VPN gateway, you need to create a subnet which is called as gateway subnet. In any one given virtual network, you can have only one VPN gateway created. So this is your virtual network which you have created, and you create a subnet which is called gateway subnet. Only one gateway subnet is allowed in one virtual network. So this is VNet 01, and you can create only one gateway subnet. With this gateway subnet, you are going to create something called as VPN gateway. When you create a VPN gateway, you are basically creating two instances. So this will be automatically deployed by Azure when you create a VPN gateway, and this instance can be in active, passive, or active standby, or active. So for the end user who is connecting to the virtual network, again, he is going to create a tunnel. This particular tunnel is a secure tunnel which is being created to connect to the Azure network. And using this tunnel, you are basically connecting to your VPN gateway to access the resources. So this is another subnet which has Azure resources created. So you are going to use the VPN gateway to access your resources on the Azure cloud. So this is okay because you are able to use the point to site connection to connect to your virtual network. So whenever you see any question related to point to site is basically individual user connecting to your Azure network. So this is point to site connection. There can be one user, there can be multiple user. So there are multiple SKUs which are available, or SKUs which are available. So it will start from 128 connection, 500 connection, and 1000 connections. So basically they are saying they can have 1000 users who can connect to the virtual network. So this is the SKU which you need to select in case if you wanted to connect, if you wanted to use 1000 individual users to connect to your virtual network. So this is okay because this is the point to site connection, individual users who are going to access your Azure resources using the VPN gateway. What if I have on-prem data center? This is the on-prem data center, and I wanted to connect the Azure cloud. I can use the same method. I have to deploy the virtual network. So I deploy the virtual network. I can create the VPN gateway. I need to create a gateway subnet before and deploy VPN gateway. When you deploy VPN gateway, two instances will be created automatically, and you have the router at the on-prem. You need to configure this particular router and this VPN gateway using the public IP address. So this also will have public IP address as the endpoint, and this also will have public IP address as the endpoint. Here also at the end user side, anyway, if you are accessing the internet, you have the public IP, right? When you access the internet, you will definitely get the public IP. For configuring the VPN gateway, you need to use the public IP address on the VPN gateway. So here also you have public IP address. So using the public network, you connect to your Azure network, access the private resources. And the authentication is Azure AD, Azure Active Directory or certificates, or Radius, remote access dial-in users. So this is very famous in Windows operating system, remote access dial-in users. It is there since a very long time, Windows 2000 or might be Windows NT 4.0. So the same authentication, you can use it. Here we use something called as pre-shared key. So we use pre-shared key at both the end, and a tunnel will be created. This is for the security reason. This is a secured traffic. So this particular traffic should not be hacked or snipped. That is the reason we use the encrypted tunnel. Only drawback here is the bandwidth. The bandwidth what the internet provides, that is the same bandwidth what you are going to use to connect your network. From the same VPN gateway, you can have multiple connections. So if you have another branch office or another head office, you can have another connection using the same VPN gateway. This is your data center on-prem. This is in location 1. This is in location 2. You can use the same VPN gateway to connect. Again, you need to configure your router in such a way that it will have public IP address, and there is the pre-shared key which has been provided by the Azure. You will be able to access your network. Let us get back to the notes and see what is VPN gateway. A VPN gateway is a type of virtual network gateway which we have discussed, and we are able to connect to site connection, and we can connect to point to site connection. Apart from point to site connection and site to site connection, we can also connect. We have one virtual network and there is another virtual network. We create VPN gateway and we are able to connect two virtual networks, VNet 01 and VNet 02. In the previous video, we have also seen how we are able to connect two virtual networks with the help of peering, so which is nothing but VNet peering, which uses the Azure backbone network. So it doesn't use the internet to connect the VNet peering. So whereas here we need public IP address at both the site, and it is going via the public internet. So if you wanted to connect VNet to VNet, we can also use VPN gateway. And the data which is transferred from source to destination, it is always encrypted. You can only deploy one VPN gateway in one virtual network that we have seen. And we can have multiple connection from the same VPN gateway that also we have discussed. When setting up a VPN gateway, you must specify either policy based or route based. Basically, they determine how the traffic needs to be encrypted. In Azure, regardless of the VPN type, either you choose policy based or the route based, the pre-shared key is the one which is employed. The policy based VPN gateways determine how the IP address, which is nothing but the public IP address, packet will be encrypted through each tunnel. IP routing, either static or dynamic, decides which tunnel to be used for each of the IP packets. Route-based VPNs are the preferred connection for the site-to-site connections. This is from on-prem to the Azure network. When a route-based VPN gateway is recommended, when we have connection for point-to-site, when we have connection for multi-site connection, and also when the VPN gateway coexists with the Azure Express Route gateway. Let us see what are the high availability scenarios for VPN gateway. VPN gateway can be configured in active standby. By default, when you create a VPN gateway, it will be deployed as active standby, and you need to use only one public IP address to connect to the point to site or site to site connection. And for the active, you need to use two IP address. This is for one instance and for the other instance. Basically, when you create a VPN gateway, two instances will be created. So for these two instances, you need to use these two IP address so that it can be used in active mode. Another high availability scenario is we can use VPN gateway to connect to your on-prem data center, right? So we can use VPN gateway to connect to the on-prem data center. At the same time, we can also use express route to connect to on-prem. So these two are different type of VPN gateways. So one is exclusively for site-to-site connection. The other one is for express route, which requires the physical cabling and co-location facilities. So when you use these two different type of VPN gateways, if there is a failure of express route, the VPN gateway which is via the internet, it can be used to access your resources on the on-prem or vice versa, or the Azure cloud. So this is another high availability scenario. Since the VPN gateway is deployed as two instances, so one instance, this is another instance, and one of the instance can be in AZ1 and the other instance can be in AZ2. This is instance number 2. This is also for the high availability purpose. So this is how we can configure Azure VPN gateways, and also we can use VPN gateways in HA design. Thank you for watching the video. If you like the content, please subscribe and share the video. Thank you and take care.